It's story time, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the driveway, where today, I wanted to do something a little bit different. In the midst of all these reviews and, POV drives and stuff like that, I've thought, there's got to be something else that would really kind of not so much draw people in, but just something different, And earlier this morning, I was kind of doing some brainstorming, writing down some notes, and I thought, you know what? I've had so many good, bad, or even ugly experiences in the almost 20 years that I've had my driver's license that I figured there's enough room in this little YouTube world to tell a few of those stories. So we've hopped in the old daily here. We're going to take her for a little bit of a spin. And for today's story, it was about the time a dealership actually stole a car from me after I'd only owned it for about a week. Now, before we really dive deep into this story and get to the real core of the issue here, I figured it's worth at least mentioning a little bit of a backstory. So I moved from the Dallas-Fort Worth area to the Houston area here in 2014. I'd been living with my mom for a good number of years after a bit of a family fiasco, and I actually moved out when I was 24 years old. You'd think I would have been out of the house by 18, but, mom needed the support and I wanted to be there. So by the time I moved, I was driving a ratted and rotted out 1997 Nissan 200SX SE. Now, this is not like the 200SX over in Europe. That's what the Americans called a 240. But anyways, this was basically a quote-unquote hopped-up Nissan Sentra that was it was beat to death. And God bless my mother for lending me the money to even buy that car, as I didn't even really have a means of transportation to begin with. But anyways, I drove the Nissan down here to Houston. I drove it around for a good bit, but ultimately it started having way too many issues, and I just decided, cut your losses, sell the car, and actually buy something decent. So I did. I sold the Nissan for like $1,000 or something like that. I think I sold it even for a little bit more. But nevertheless, I got rid of the Nissan, and so I started looking. Enter in my friend Rob. And Rob is a Marine Corps veteran, so Semper Fidelis to anybody out there who is a Marine veteran of any kind. Even though I'm not one myself, I just had to say that. Anyways, he enters in and he said, you know what, let me help you on your car search. You've been buying a lot of junk vehicles. I've been seeing them on your Facebook. We need to get you something solid. So he takes me to the northwest corner of Houston one day to go take a look at a Toyota dealer that he actually used to work for. Now, for privacy reasons and because I'm not really one to just put everybody's name on blast, I don't want to name exactly which one it is, but if you know the northwest corner of Houston, well, you kind of might get which one I'm talking about. But anyways, we go to this Toyota dealer and we start looking around in the inexpensive section of their lot. And there, in all of its glory, for a pretty sizable price for the mileage and type of vehicle that it was a 2005 Chevrolet Cobalt SS. Now, many of you may not know I even had a Cobalt SS, unless you know me personally or have seen any of the few pictures of it on my Facebook. But either way, it was an absolutely beautiful, like medium blue color. It was manual. It was just the perfect car. It had like right at about 100,000 miles on it, had a pretty good history, and I said, you know what, let me drive it, let me just see if I even like it, because I did like the Cobalt SSs for what they were back when they were really hot. And considering this was the supercharged one, not the turbocharged one, that was a little bit of a letdown. I really wanted a turbo one if I was even going to buy a Cobalt SS. But anyways, I decided that this could be a solid choice. Looked around at a few other options, didn't really see anything, so the Cobalt became the car I wanted to buy. It was going to be relatively inexpensive on insurance for what it is, and of course, it's a fun car to drive around in general. So we put a little deal together, did some negotiating, my credit went through, no questions asked. They asked how much money I had to put down. I told them I had, a little under $1,000 to put down, and they said that was fine. So I put the $1,000 or so down, give or take maybe a little bit, and they said the deal was good. We went into the finance office, and we had been sitting at this Toyota dealer for God knows how long, but they finally got the deal put together. And the key factor is I signed my signature and my initials on every legal piece of paper for this car. I signed an official contract going over the finance figures, the payments, the loan terms, all that. So it was an official car deal. It was folded up. I was given a copy of everything, and they ended up selling me the car. So I was just over the moon, right? I've got a supercharged 2-door coupe that looks as sporty as ever, and it still was relatively decent on gas, even though I was a broke, not making much money kind of person back then. Unfortunately, though, my excitement was not lived for very long, because about a few days later, I get a phone call, and it's from the finance office at the Toyota dealer. Now, when I signed all of the paperwork for this car, I had no qualms about anything that I was getting into. I read every single every single letter, number. I made sure that this deal was 100% within my budget, and I was able to do it. They called me up and said, well, the bank is kind of changing their mind and we need more money down. And having sold cars at this point, this was before I sold cars, but now modern day, having sold cars for 5 to 6 years, I know that there's, a few red flags going up with that. You don't sell a car and then have the bank change their mind a little bit later. You might, but you wouldn't really put the deal together to begin with and let the customer take the car home in the end. If you know the deal's no good, you don't let the customer take the car home, which was the first mistake they made. I took the car home, I started putting miles on it, I was driving the heck out of it, I was having the time of my life. But anyways, they said that the bank had changed their mind, needed more money down. Okay, so I started asking for evidence, and they were a little bit cagey about it. And I said, I need evidence that the bank is saying we need more money down. And they're like, well, the bank is saying we need more money down. How much more money can you give? I'm like, I don't have any more. I need to wait for my next paycheck. And then I also need to, worry about gas, groceries, all the other stuff that you do when you're #adulting. And they didn't want to accept that answer. They thought I was just making making excuses. So, I went back and forth with them for days on end. And I mean, at this point, I'm just getting stressed out. I'm getting tired. I love my car, and I was just doing everything in my power to try to keep it. But then the finance director, I guess, the person who's like over the top of the entire finance department, he calls me up and he says, hey, you got 2 options. You either bring us some more money, whatever you got, or you bring the car back and we take it back. And I was like, so that means you're repossessing the car even though I've never made my first payment. I gave you guys my down payment and you guys let me sign the contract. That's all fully legal right there. Money exchanged hands. I signed the legalized paperwork with my initials and signature, and you're trying to go back on it because you're making up some crap that the bank is needing more money. So we get into this whole big battle. I call up my friend Rob. I tell him what they're saying, and he said, no, that's a bunch of BS. And, him being the normal, cool, calm, collected Marine, I don't think I've ever seen somebody this upset with any professional business, ever. He was livid. So we both drive up there. He starts getting into it with the finance director. I start getting into it with the salespeople. I start yelling at them because they're taking away my car at this point. So what the heck did I do wrong? I then start talking to the finance director as well. He starts getting in my face and telling me I'm making a scene. And I'm like, well, wouldn't you if, you're taking away someone's means of transportation based off of just a bunch of hearsay? So they refused to provide me any proof that the bank needed any more money. I showed them the email from said bank saying that my deal was good, we were ready to go. And they said, no, we let you go on a pre-approval. We never actually got it approved. And I said, well, then why do I have this email from the bank saying that my deal's good to go, everything's fine? So then it just turned into this huge snafu, threatened to get law enforcement involved. And that's when I basically grabbed the keys, threw them at the finance director and said, you guys are the worst place in the world. I'm done. I'm going somewhere else. And I did. And I ended up going down many, many, many more stupid automotive decisions. But you know what the worst part out of this entire fiasco was? When I finally managed to get everything all sorted out, the dealership had took the car away, so on and so forth, they offered to only give me half of my down payment back. Not the entirety of it, only half because I had driven the car and damaged it for a week. Yeah, that was their excuse. Somehow I damaged this car in a week of driving it. Literally, like, I think I was driving maybe 5 or 6 miles to work every day. That's not damage. Like, just, I will never understand how some people can get their minds so warped that they feel I damaged a vehicle, even after myself and all of the people involved in this entire, deal walked around the car, realized there wasn't a mark on it anywhere apart from the fact it was a little dirty. That was it. But in the end, after talking to a few legal advisors, talking to my parents, talking to Rob, talking to a whole bunch of my friends, I come to find out that the dealership essentially stole my Cobalt SS away from me. My only means of transportation that was, it was a bit fun and a bit sporty, but in the end, it was my only way to get to work. And the funny thing about it is, after that car was taken away, it ended up getting even worse. But that is a story I plan on sharing for another time. Now, if you guys have enjoyed my ramblings and a bit of storytelling here as we're driving down towards downtown Houston today, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and also while you're at it, hit the subscribe button down below, because I always love support from non-subscribers, subscribers, people just passing by, anybody in general that wants me to keep doing this sort of stuff. I absolutely love it. But in any event, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care, everybody, and stay safe.